starting recording too?
Yeah. Hey everybody. Hopefully you guys can.
I better turn my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, see and hear us. Let's see. Not me over here refreshing your all page for a week to see if the video had dropped or is coming up. You guys have me obsessed. That's funny. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been a long week at our house, so we have not done very much online at all.
Unfortunately, we've watched season 2, episode 1 multiple times now, so I've got lots of notes, but yeah.
Trying to say that. Can you guys hear us?
Should. My bar's going on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Get my thing down here.
I think it says hello, hello.
Hello, welcome to.
I don't know if we're live.
It says broadcast.
Are we? Hello?
Yeah.
Can you guys drop some comments in the notes if you guys can hear us? Okay, perfect. Okay, and you can see us just fine too?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I don't know why it's not showing up on mine as live, so I was getting a little worried. Okay.
Okay. There we go.
Awesome. All right. We haven't been online for a minute. I haven't even dropped anything on TikTok or anything for a couple of weeks. Hey Katie girl. Oh, Katie, I need to figure out how to add you as a moderator for this. I still haven't figured that out. I feel like I thought, we process through a lot of this stuff, and then as we get going, stuff can kind of get a little bit heavier. I know, I just saw that too. Who calls himself the Teflon Queen? I just barely saw that comment too. The Teflon Queen, because Cody called Janelle the Teflon Queen because nothing sticks to her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So how are you guys all doing? It's been a minute since we have connected with everybody. I always thought we would just do lives every week, but sometimes it can get a little heavy. And so, I always thought whoops, sorry, I'm turning it down.
I've been just studying, educating myself on cults and bigamy and all the stuff like that, so I can sound more intelligent when I'm doing these videos because I was completely clueless. I knew polygamy, but I didn't know what bigamy was, so I did a bit of education this last week.
Yeah.
To understand the whole background of it, how the Gentiles put laws against it. So
yeah,
I was like, or it wasn't even Gentile. Yeah, it was Gentiles because it was back even before Mormonism was around.
I think you offend some people by using the terminology Gentiles. I've gotten a couple of different comments about it.
Hey,
it's never meant in an offensive way. It's just
it's an honor to be a Gentile or
right.
Outcast. So
right
means you're not a part of the cult mentality, the cult thinking. Think of Gentile as a free thinker. So
you're not stuck in the confines of a religious doctrine.
I just use all the terms that they use negatively, Gentile, Illuminati, all those things as okay, enlightened ones, cool. So it's just my way of a quick little stab back at the dogmatic doctrine I grew up with.
Right.
So.
Right. I know. And life does get busy. We have been so busy with our day jobs. We were just going to do this as a fun little hobby, and all of a sudden it started to take off, and we started to get more involved with it, but we still have day jobs that we have to attend to. And so we kind of took a little bit of time down. And it's really interesting. I guess I didn't realize we're in a blood moon tonight. And so there's like a lunar eclipse blood moon. Oh. And so if you read all of the stuff around that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I've been feeling this last week. Just like a little bit of blah, a little bit of just overwhelm. I've been trying to sit outside every single day.
Soak up the
We've
sun.
Been at like 60 degrees here in Salt Lake.
I'm getting a bit of a tan.
I know. We both, well, you're getting way better than me. But yeah, I definitely, it's crazy because I just definitely needed a little bit of a regroup. So we were going to go live with my mom a couple weeks ago, and then we had a medical emergency in our family and we weren't able to do it. And so she's coming down this weekend, or she's coming up here this weekend. So she'll be here Thursday, I think, until Monday. So we're going to try to do it again if she behaves herself and doesn't end up getting herself in the hospital, then we'll try to do it again this next weekend with her. I need to text her and tell her we're live right now because she wanted to come on to it. But yeah, that's why your kids are up all night. Yeah, it's crazy how much. Like, I guess I just didn't really believe in a lot of that stuff when we were part of the polygamist cult, because that would be considered like a huge no-no to believe in that kind of stuff. You put your entire faith in the scriptures or the leaders or, the gospel, if you will, and you don't put it in anything else. So I just think it's funny. And I'm not a huge astrology, buff by any means, but we're getting there. So close to 10,000 subscribers. I know. Yes, and then we take a week off, and I think we've gotten like 20 subscribers in the last week, which is great.
Katie, the children in this house stay up all night too.
So. Cory and I have gotten on a really bad schedule. For the last couple of weeks, we've been engulfed in a series that we've been watching. And what's funny about this series is that the end of the series, it's like an apocalypse series where the world ends and all this other stuff. Well, at the end of the series, it all boils down to a cult. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now. This is all boils down to like what a cult is and how it ended the world, all of, how it saved the world, all of these kind of things. It was really interesting. It was a really interesting series. I'm just going to tilt this camera just a smidge. But we were not aware that it had anything to do with a cult until we got that. What series? It's called 100. And we tried to get into it a couple of times, and then we just it didn't go anywhere for us. We were like, yeah, this is a bunch of kids trying to off each other. What?
Yeah, survive the apocalypse. So
yeah.
Exactly how we were taught was going to happen. The boys from
would go to the
mountains and save humanity. So
there was a question on here about the Pinesdale lawsuit, and we will talk about that here in just a second. But that was one of the reasons Pinesdale was started. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, got to give a little context about it.
Oh yeah, the Pinesdale was a dream of their prophet Rulon. Dang it, I keep messing up those two. Rulon, and he wanted to buy some property up in the mountains because of a whatever it is, a vision or a teaching that they'd been told that the boys from the mountains would come down and save. And so he wanted a community that was self-sufficient, that united order, that traded all of their goods back and forth. And so those people who believed in his teachings and in preparing for the end of the world were sent up to Pinesdale. They usually had to have some sort of trade or ability to grow crops or raise cattle, dairymen, different people that came from all over Utah, all over really anybody that they had taught, if they had a certain trade, would go up to Pinesdale to create that trade and make the community self-sufficient. And so that's how we grew up, self-sufficient, eating the food that we grew, and so that's how we grew up. She grew up down here amongst all you Gentiles, and then I freed myself from the cult and came down living among the Gentiles as an apostate and loved it. So
so that's literally why Pinesdale became a community, why they purchased up there, because somebody had given that revelation. Rulon had given that revelation that said, in the last days, the boys will flee to the mountains, the men will flee to the mountains, and then they will save everyone. So in this series, there's a bunch of that kind of stuff that happens. So and that was a mess going on when we moved to Georgia. Cory's sister. I was trying to figure out how to make you a moderator, and I can't figure it out. I'm going to have to ask my kids. But that is why Pinesdale was even started, was because of that revelation, or that, what is it? It's not why are our brains on a pause mode? But it's like a prophecy. See, it's a prophecy that Rulon all read, and Rulon all read.
It was a revelation from one of their prophets and became a prophecy. So that's where it kind of goes.
Yeah, and so that's what's interesting. Oh, here we go. I think I figured out how to add you as a moderator.
Hello from Holland. Hi, Holland. Yep. We were Noah's Ark up there. Self-sufficient.
Yeah. Okay, Katie, I think I
Raised
figured
all
it
of our
out.
own
You're a
stuff.
moderator now, so if you can help us answer some questions, that'd be awesome. I think I did. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's why Pinesdale was like created as this community. So as we're watching this series over the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, I guess we've been watching it. It like when it ended, we stayed up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning watching it because we're like, we thought, oh, there's just like 12 episodes in this end of this. Was like 17. So we stayed up all night watching it, and it was really interesting to see the concept of how the cults, what they do to you. And, it's been proven that when you've been raised in a cult, your brain alters in a way that cannot be repaired. It does some damage to your actual brain. And so that's interesting. So yeah, we've had a lot of discussions the last couple of days, because then we lay in bed and we talk about it until 6 a.m. figure out what we've been doing.
It takes a lot to unlearn a lot of the cult-like behaviors and becoming aware of what a cult-like behavior is, so that you're aware of it when you go, because when we are cast out or leave a cult, it's very tempting to join another.
Yeah.
So
because you
default. We're used to that.
Yeah, you default into, wait a minute, I'm not used to making my own decisions or doing what I'm told, or doing my own accord. I'm used to doing what I was told. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know if I would go back and rewatch it because it was long. It was like 7 seasons. It was really long. But anyway, somebody says I get confused by Rulon Jeffs and Rulon Allred. So the way that they pronounce Rulon Jeffs, it says Rulon, which is interesting to me. But Rulon Allred, and I think it's interesting too because it's not a very common name. But maybe it just was for that time era, that era of time. I don't know.
I think they pronounce it different so they could distinguish between the prophet of the FLDS and the prophet of
I wonder if that's why they did
the
it.
AUB. So it distinguishes who they are. So.
Yeah. So that was the whole point of Pinesdale, and it's interesting to see how Pinesdale has evolved and over the last it's been up there. You moved up there when you were 2. So Pinesdale's been a thing for over 50 years, 55 years now. And yeah, we were contacted by an attorney, or I'm sorry, not an attorney, a reporter that wrote that story. If nobody knows, there's an article out there about Pinesdale right now and how a lot of the community is trying to get their own property back. It's been a huge it's a huge problem in cults, and you saw it happen when Colorado City fell apart. And then they just moved a bunch of people down to Texas. So you saw that all fall apart down there, and then people didn't own the land. Here they put their entire lives into this community and built these homes, but they don't own their own land. And so there is a huge uproar going on in Montana right now because the last couple of prophets have been so controversial, especially the last one, because he was accused of essaying his daughter. It was proven that he had stole tithing funds from the tithing coffers in the AUB. And so he was very, very controversial, polarizing leader, if you will. And so it was even said that he had prophesied that before the end of his time, the men would have to lay with their daughters in order to, I know, right? We're going to just throw it all out there today. And so there's just a lot of stuff that he prophesied and predicted, and so it split Pinesdale and a lot of the communities are pretty upset about it. And so it's just funny. It's just funny that now people are like angry. They're frustrated because now they've spent their entire lives building properties. So we were contacted by that reporter wanting to do a story on Pinesdale. And I've been meaning to get back to him. I just haven't gotten back to him because I guess he's going to do a deeper dive on that. But yeah, Cory's got more opinions about all that than I do.
Well, it's just interesting because they didn't know how to the prophet of the AUB I don't even know how to explain it. The prophet of the AUB was passing on, and he decided to keep assign the next prophet, which was unique because I think Rulon was the first one that was set aside after the split of the main LDS or polygamist group, and it split, and a lot of people followed different council members, created the FLDS, created the Allred group, all stuff like that. And then when Owen assigned somebody to take his place, that was kind of
he jumped over a couple of apostles up in Pinesdale.
Yeah, but that is the basis of how Rulon came into power too.
And that is exactly how the AUB came into power. Is somebody, the previous prophet, jumped over a couple of different apostles and went straight to Rulon. So the AUB was formed exactly the same way. But then when it happens to the followers of the AUB, then they throw a fit.
Well, then
and they don't like it.
Rulon was killed, and so they had to kind of come together in unity, if you will, to assign Owen as the next prophet.
Right.
Because Rulon hadn't set up that precedence, if you will. And so Owen set up that precedence.
Right.
And skipped over a couple council members. And so that caused a split within the AUB. People who thought that the next in line should have been the prophet followed him. And so it's interesting. It's interesting how the politics works within the AUB. So
yeah, and so that's so when Cory's dad died, so you have a bunch of people who originally founded Pinesdale, and I mean Cory knows more about this than I do. He just doesn't always go into the deeper explanations of things, but it's interesting because now you have another generation coming up, the children of the people who originally founded Pinesdale, and now these children are building homes and they're doing things on property that they don't own, and that there's no way to obtain that property. And for the longest time it felt like the people in Pinesdale were trying to get rid of the property. They couldn't afford the taxes, so then they split it up and made everybody start paying the individual taxes. And it's kind of it's a shit show in Pinesdale right now. It really is. And Cory's little sister says if you have the right last name, then you get your property. If not, then you don't get anything. And so it is very scary for a lot of people who have dumped tens of thousands of dollars into homes up there on property they don't own. And they won't, being in real estate, we both saw this coming a mile, 25 years ago when we started real estate, we saw this coming. And we've been trying to, when Cory's father died a couple of years ago, back in 2016, so gosh, it's been 9 years, then, there was a lot of question about what was going to happen with our house up there. And Cory jumped in and made enemies on both. Some of the siblings were angry with the way that it got handled. Some of them felt like it was unfair. Some of them felt like Cory tried to be as equitable with all of them as possible and tried to get the home at least secured so that it doesn't get taken by the AUB.
Well, and so I've just been looking into the lawsuit, and the AUB's stance on it is that it's a united order, that it's land owned by the United Order, and if people want to no longer be a part of the United Order, then they're free to leave and leave their structures on there for somebody else to step in and take care of the United Order. And now their stance is when somebody gets in there and becomes a part of the United Order, they have a lease agreement with United Order for their lifetime. So when my father passed, the lease agreement was up based off of, this is how the AUB stance on it is. But they, through other lawsuits that went on, they almost lost that property.
Yeah, the AUB was sued for money laundering 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They were sued for money laundering, and the person who sued them won. And
almost lost the property.
Almost lost all of Pinesdale because of that lawsuit.
Because it was underneath of the AUB's name, or whatever corporation they had, it was underneath their name. And so the people of Pinesdale and all over came together, and each priesthood holder came up with, I think they required
$2,500 per person in the per adult in the AUB is from what I understand.
To add to a fund to pay off that lawsuit.
The multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
And so the people up there, this is my understanding, the people up there were frustrated that because of stuff that was going down here in Utah, that they almost lost their property. So they wanted the property subdivided and basically sold to each of the families that were up there on the property. So if something like that ever happened again, it didn't risk their property. And that was my understanding. That was talking with my mothers, that was their understanding too. So they were coming together there was going to be a cost to each family to subdivide that property down and get it turned over into that family's name. But that has changed.
Only certain families were able to acquire their own property. Like Cory's sister said earlier, it depended on who your last name was. And we've been saying this since we started going live.
Or how faithful you were.
Right.
Or how much, if you were still considered faithful and took a oath to fulfill, to uphold the current PSR.
Yeah.
Then you could get your property subdivided and get that money. I feel like, and this is just my feeling, that a lot of the people who founded the AUB or Pinesdale that are still up there are elderly and are passing.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to read the lawsuit or read the information that reporter gave on how AUB's lawyers are wording everything. And they're basically wording that, it's a lease agreement for the life of each individual up there. That means when my dad passes, the lease agreement is up.
They own the property.
Now they own the structure. And
or you're able to remove the structure, right?
Or you're able, that's what they're saying. You can remove the structure if you can. And, but it's not passed on to, they decide who it's passed on to. If there's another worthy child of that man, then they could have that structure. But so it's interesting to see how it's going to play out. I've already told my mother she'll be long gone, I'll be long gone, my children will probably be long gone before it's decided by the AUB how it's actually going to happen. Some of the worthy families up there have retained some of their property, got it turned over into their name, but the majority of the property is still waiting to be decided upon.
Right.
So.
Yep. So yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I mean, there's a reason courts don't want to touch stuff like this because I mean, there's a reason that property rights are in the First Amendment. It's because property rights are so protected. But if you go into a cult and you dump your whole life into it.
Yeah, build on somebody else's
and you build on someone else's property. That's your own fault.
That is. So I have empathy for the people that have done that, but then again, they made that decision and dumped everything, their whole life into it, and now they're seeing the results of it. Yeah. So hopefully that's a wake-up call to their children, their grandchildren, that build
not
your
to build
own
on
property,
land you don't own.
Yeah, don't build on property that you don't own. So
it's sad because there's a lot of people up there who are tragically, I mean, a lot of Cory's own family that are probably going to lose everything.
If you build barns and cattle things and dairies, why don't you just let the AUB come up with the money to build that on there for you? And you can manage it and run it, but leave whenever you want. But
right. Somebody says, what is PSR?
Prophet, Seer, and Revelator.
Cory just made it up.
I did.
He was just like,
I broke it down. They call the leader of the thing the prophet, the seer, and the revelator, and so I just shortened it for comedy reasons.
Right.
So PSR.
Yeah. So that is what it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how the whole thing plays out, because you're literally talking tens of thousands of dollars in improvements on the land. you're literally talking millions of dollars worth of land. And yeah, it's gonna be bad for a lot of people. And I think that it boils right. I mean, you're seeing it, not to bring sister wives into this, but you're seeing it play out with Coyote Pass. This is what happens when everyone goes in with faith and believing that this, and they don't financially or legally protect themselves. This is what happens. And unfortunately, hopefully some people start standing up and coming forward and saying, enough is enough of this. You can't do this to people, and bring forth lawsuits. But I mean, even still, personal property rights are highly protected. Property rights, period, are highly protected in the United States. So we'll see how this goes. I wouldn't want to be a judge on this case, because
no, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, it's going to be lose-lose for a lot. Can they sell the homes they built on someone else's land? It depends, really.
Yes,
I mean,
and
yeah.
Yes, they can, but usually what happens is you're selling a structure to somebody, and so who is going to buy a structure on somebody else's land? Probably another faithful, somebody within the group that wants to be there, or somebody coming in. So, and usually if you but that person has to have cash, if you will, to buy it, because you can't get a loan against a structure that's owned by somebody else. And so it usually has to be cash. Who has cash? The AUB does. And so, but usually if they are buying a structure from somebody, they want receipts. Hey, how much did it cost you to build that structure? Well, it cost me 30 years ago $30,000 in supplies. Well, we'll pay you $30,000 then. So what you put into the structure, here it's back out. If they're feeling gracious, sometimes they'll just say, yeah. It depends on the leverage that they have. Sometimes they'll be just like, no, you can leave, and we don't want you here. You're more than welcome to leave. And so a lot of the people that have left the AUB have got up and left those structures. They'll sometimes lease them out to other faithfuls trying to get some money out of it, but for the most part, then the AUB takes back over the structure and turns it into an old folks home or something like that, or lets some other faithful, usually a kid or a relative of who built the property, take over the property for their lifetime.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be I've been saying this from the very beginning, that those women are going to get screwed on Coyote Pass. And I mean, it's structured right after something like Pinesdale, know.
It's not necessarily, those women are going to get taken advantage of, but most people going into a cult and building on cult property, men, women, children, are all if you are unfaithful and don't kiss the ring of the current prophet, then you can be asked to leave at any time.
Yeah. And
you leave your assets or anything you built for the community behind and start over.
Well, one of the things we talked about, like, remember I was stunned when you said 20% tithing. You're like, you only have to pay 10%, because 10% is monetary, financial, and then the other 10% is labor and invested interest into the community. That's not ever recompensated.
Yeah, I was re-educated by my mom too. We paid 10% tithing and 10% surplus, totaling 20%.
Right.
And so that surplus went, just like you said, to advancing the community, building stuff upon it.
For free, for someone else's pocket.
Well, and that was just money that we earned. We were also required to do work projects every weekend, so we would go to school, but then weekends we were doing work projects where we were building on these structures, cleaning them, doing stuff like that. I did a lot of those wonderful work projects my whole childhood. So.
And it's so true. I don't even know that somebody could sell a structure because they don't have clear title.
No.
And so there's no way that they could even sell one of their structures. And I seems like, I don't know this, I didn't get too deep into this. When Colorado City broke up, it seems like a federal judge or maybe a local judge stepped in and ordered the properties to be subdivided a certain way. But I don't know this for sure. It seems like I remember hearing that story. And then people were allowed to buy or purchase the land that they have been paying the taxes on for years. And, you know, Cory's family has paid the taxes on the land that they occupy. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out over the next few years. Because I think there's going to be a lot of one-sidedness. I think the AUB is going to come out smelling like roses on a lot of this stuff, unfortunately. And this is part
legally they've set themselves up great. So
yeah. Well, and then they convinced the community to step in and bail them out. Like the people who donated the $2,500, they didn't profit from the laundering of the money that the lawsuit came out of.
Misallocation of funds.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I guess can't say laundering. But
no, you're saying what it is legally. I'm just telling you what the AUB's.
So one of the things about the AUB too, or any cult for that matter, is the way that they, you know, change names for things. They love to. Okay, you gotta stop hitting the desk, babe. The way that they change things, like, oh, it's a righteous anger, so now we can be, you know, or it's unrighteous dominion, or also known as abuse, or it's blood atonement, also known as, you know, murder, or it's reallocating of funds, also known as money laundering. So if these are the kind of little words that you got to pay attention to.
Soften the words. So.
Yeah, it makes them not sound so bad when they're screwing everyone over. But what's interesting to me is my boys did not grow up around polygamy they grew up around it, but they were not involved in a lot of it. And so my older two, they were out working with my ex-husband, electrical contractor, and they're out working with him, and all of a sudden their grandpa comes out and he's putting in, like, this man is in his 70s, maybe 80s by this point, and he's putting in 14-hour days on this job site trying to come up with his $2,500 for the AUB to get out of this lawsuit. And my boys were furious about this because they watched their grandpa, who is elderly, needs a cane, and he's out there working to his, 14-hour days to try to come up with his $2,500 to help bail the AUB out of their money laundering scam. And so this is what's so infuriating for so many of these families who literally did donate 20% of their monetary, and then their time and their resources into properties that they will never recover any of this effort. And they did it with the belief system that their families were going to be taken care of, that they were going to be taken care of. But then the minute that the leadership does anything that you disagree with and you speak up about that, get off the property, get out of the land. So it is one of the most corrupt systems I've ever seen. And I won't even try to sugarcoat it. It is absolute corruption. What are you saying?
No, she doesn't sugarcoat much, so it's awesome.
I just think it's ridiculous. Yeah. And the part that makes me sick about it is that these leaders live off of these people. I mean, how many leaders do you know? Look at the Mormon church. How many of these leaders do have actual jobs, actually take care of themselves? They don't. They live off of the funds of these hard workers, all with the promise of exaltation. It's it's a crock of shit.
To be able to go through and get you have to have that temple recommend. So you have to agree to following the living prophet. Yeah. You have to agree to a certain belief system and get interviewed and do everything that you're supposed to be doing and have the right name, and then you can get your temple recommend. If you get your temple recommend, then you can go through and get your blessings for exaltation. So
right.
And that it requires that tithing and surplus.
So you're seeing it on a smaller scale with Coyote Pass. It's 15 acres on Coyote Pass. I mean, Pinesdale's like what, 50,000, 75,000 acres, something like that. Exactly. And so that's a whole different level. So yeah, it's fascinating for us. It's interesting.
Hundreds of families.
Hundreds of families, and generational families that have been there for since the beginning and start of Pinesdale. So it's very interesting, Dust. You know, I appreciate the way that Cory handled his family's situation with their home. I think that you protected them,
yeah.
but we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. So, but Cory did make some enemies with some of his siblings because of it, because they were like, "What are you doing?" And Cory's like, "I'm making damn sure that the AUB doesn't get this home." And so,
and they still could. So.
And they still could, but I kind of don't think so. Not the way that you structured it, but yeah, it's crazy. So anyways, let's go. So hopefully that answers some of your questions about that article. We might reach out to this reporter and just see, you know, offer our 2 cents about it. I don't know. See what they come up with. So one of the things I did want to point out too is that if anyone knows about, there's a local community here, or a local charity here called Holding Out Help, and they actually do help a lot of people coming out of polygamy. They give resources and help to people, especially women who are coming out of this with nothing. They have no any sort of financial resources, nothing's in their name, so they don't get anything. And so Holding Out Help, yeah, and we're not affiliated with them in any way. I've sent several people to them, but like as of right now, we're not like a co-sponsor of theirs. I'd like to eventually hook up with them, but they're having a big charity auction this Friday night. We're going to be attending that, and they do have a website called Holding Out Help. Maybe I'll try to dump it into the show notes later, and if anyone is interested in supporting that function, it does help. You know, I like to bring it up. I know growing up with polygamy, they promote it a lot, and especially during around the Christmas season, the holiday seasons, they put an actual donation button on their YouTube. And so I think we're going to look into doing that as well, because I'd really like to be, you know, they've helped a lot of my immediate family. They're helping my mom. They help my sister. There's just a lot of things. So there's a lot of people that could use resources, because these people in these cults are so faith-based and so like almost to the point where they follow blindly, hoping that what they're doing gives them eternal salvation. And so yeah, it's hard to watch. It's hard to see people, especially when they're already being advised, hey, put your name on something, hey, make sure you own that property before you build $100,000 home on it, hey, you know, but they follow so faithfully that they end up being very, very much taken advantage of and abused. So
they need to be more educated is really what it comes down to. A lot of the people that have left the AUB are the ones coming back and going, hey, you should do this, you should do that. But we have been corrupted by the outside world, and God uses communities like this to protect the whole. So that's the interesting part on that show that we were watching. Well, we're doing it for our people. And yet anybody that questions our people is then cast out or killed, or because you're questioning our people. And so it's interesting how, because you separated yourself from the people or the cult, and you're the enemy of one crew.
Well, in that, the series that we watched, 100, and even towards the end, when you're getting all the way to the end of the series, and you know, you find out, oh my God, all this started because, you know, all this was a cult, and the cults are the ones who survived till the very end, and their motto, or their whatever, is for all mankind. But unfortunately, the people at the top of the pyramid are the ones who benefit the most from the people who are at the bottom working. So a lot of...
And it's interesting because the wars are between the cults, and anybody that questions it or is outside of it just become the casualties of war, because they won't follow this God or that leader or whatever it is. And
well, we see that happen in the AUB all the time. We see that happen with, you know, the clash between the LeBarons and the Allreds, and we see this all over the place. We see this throughout history, and so it's weird. It's like, it's crazy to see it happen in modern times, because you think, oh, are we, you know, a way more advanced civilization than this? But it really does create that us versus them mentality, and you're seeing us versus them all over. I mean, we see it politically, we see it, you know, communally, we see it everywhere.
Well, now that we grew up in a cult, we're very familiar with their techniques,
Their structures,
their stuff like that. And so now I don't know, but I see cults everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, I don't want to join your cult. I've been through one before, and so I'm trying to educate myself not to be part of another cult. So
we're highly against MLMs because of this reason. So anyone who's involved in an MLM, great. But when you have been programmed by a cult, it's hard to be a part of that. Okay, somebody says, I can't imagine having 5 to 10 kids and having to come up with $2,500. Yeah, it dang near broke this man. Well, it broke so many of these families. Yeah, and I mean, you got a husband and...
It was a huge ask for tons of families who were giving their all and then had to go out and earn another...
Right.
People were working overtime, people were taking up extra jobs, people were
selling items
in their homes to come up with that kind of money to bail the AUB out.
Yeah, so. And guess what? None of these people benefited from the money that was laundered. Yeah. Everyone who benefited from that, several of them left the AUB completely, and some of them...
Those that still hung around...
Paid their $2,500. Yeah, they might have received hundreds of thousands of dollars.
They gave their $2,500 like everybody else.
Like it's such a joke, and it's so infuriating. It's really infuriating to watch because had I have stayed in the AUB, I guarantee you I would have been one of those people paying the $2,500 faithfully.
To be a faithful. Yeah.
Right, very faithfully. I would have done that because that's what was requested and required of me. And so it's really hard to watch some of these people get so taken advantage of. Somebody's asking, it's a shame too, because you don't have to be on the mortgage to be on the title. Yeah. And since I've been in mortgages now for 25 years, in February marked my 25th year I've been in real estate. And I have really tried to educate my sisters, my mom, just everyone that I do a loan for. I really try to educate them why and how you put your name on title. Is the AUB Bible different from our Bible? No, I mean it depends on what Bible you follow, like the
Which one are you
King
following?
James version. Yeah. So
most of them, if they read the Bible, follow the Bible redone by Joseph Smith, what is it called? He went through the King James version of the Bible and edited a few things.
So. Sorry, my brain went blank too.
Yeah, and so they follow the Mormons' redone Bible. So
yeah.
What did he?
It's gonna come to you in a minute. I know it.
I know. I'll think of it here in a minute. So.
Yeah, so no, and part of the Mormon, the Mormons have articles of faith, and one of the articles of faith is we believe in the Bible as long as it's been translated correctly.
Retranslated.
Oh, is that the word you were looking for?
Retranslated Bible.
That's so awesome.
Or that the Mormons follow. You usually go by the book, the retranslated Bible, and the triple combination or the combination, but most people, to be honest with you, most AUB members, they study the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, and the Doctrine and Covenants. Those are their 3 main scriptures that they study and follow, because they feel like that is the new and everlasting covenant that has been given to man. It's the reorganized church here on earth. And the Bible basically does a lot of speaking about how the old church was put together. So this is a second testament of Christ is how they believe it. And so they follow those 3 books. They read those 3 books. They study those 3 books. That's why a lot of them will, when they're talking to the Gentiles, they'll quote Bible verses and things like that, but when they're talking amongst themselves, they're talking about the Doctrine and Covenants of the Pearl of Great Price. Those are new covenants that have come out to be taught to the faithful people of the gospel of the church. So
Yeah, so somebody's been asking about if we know about Wynn Brown. I don't know anything about Wynn Brown's marriages. Sorry. I know that they've talked about did he marry one wife and not marry, he divorced one and married the other one. I really don't know. Did not get involved that deeply. A lot of times when that stuff happens, it's very personal and the families don't announce it. They don't make it a public statement. The Browns just did because they were on TV. But if the Browns weren't on TV and something like that were to happen, most polygamists would have no idea that it occurred. They just use a lot of that kind of stuff for their storylines. That's really the only reason.
Leadership usually knows about marriages.
Right, the leadership would know.
And people within a community, because all of a sudden a family would grow and people would start coming, okay, I think they probably got married. So.
Right.
So, but that's usually a covenant that is made where they made an agreement. They come down here to Utah, and they are married within their endowment house. With the leadership knows that stuff, and the family knows it, but most of the community figures it out later.
Right.
So it's not a public announcement that so and so just married into this family.
Yeah.
So they do have a phone tree though, and gossip runs awesome through that, and so figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah. So a lot of times it will, because the reason people will figure it out pretty quickly is because the legal wife is crying to a friend, makes her promise not to tell, she tells someone else, they tell you know what I mean? So, or I'm not even saying the legal wife, I'm just any of the wives that are involved in the situation will cry to a best friend or whatever. And so the rumor mill will take over, but it's not typically something that anyone makes an announcement over.
There's not an announcement of it. Yeah.
Right. And somebody says, the Ruby Frankie thing where she tithes her children, we did watch that series, and I think it's pretty normal for most Mormon parents to have their kids start saving tithing. I did when my kids were young. I had them save tithing. And so I think it's pretty normal.
Save or pay?
Well, save their pennies all the time and then make a tithing check.
Oh. Okay.
So typically what they would do with my kids were like 5 when we left. I would pay them for little chores, and then we would have this whole discussion. Okay, this is for Heavenly Father, and then this is something that you can spend, and then this is something you save. And so I was trying to teach my kids at a very young age during that process. And I do believe in the law of giving, because I do believe it is a karmic law and a universal law that when you give, you receive. Mm-hmm. And so for that reason, but I also believe you have to be a good steward over your givings. Where do I give this money to? Who do I give this money to? And you have to be a good steward to make those decisions based on the most amount of knowledge you have about that, whoever you're giving it to. I stopped giving mine to the Mormon Church years ago, but I still do try to give charitably as
people we know.
Right, but I'm very, very cautious about what charities or what communities I will send my money to. Because that's your responsibility. It's not your in my opinion, it's not your responsibility to blindly pay 10% to somebody and say, oh, God will figure it out. No, it's your responsibility to be a good steward over the money that you earn and give it to people who are doing with it what you would, your values is what I'm trying to come up with. And if you're watching people, I'm sorry, I would never give AUB 10% of my money so that they can go buy one of their leaders $1 million homes and pay cash. I have no interest in doing that. And we've watched that happen where these leaders are living in these lavish luxury homes and they don't pay anything on it. The tithing pays for it, or the surplus pays for it, or whatever else you want to call it. I mean, whatever name that they want to give it now so that it doesn't look like they're stealing funds from the people. Well,
I think it's a societal thing when you give 10% of your energy to people that need it, those needy
right.
around you, then you get the blessings and the benefits of doing that. When you're just cutting a check to AUB or this church or that church, and you're not actually involved in it, then they're going to get the blessings of tithing or of charity they're going to benefit from that. And I feel like a lot of times we have just oh, let's just let them take care of it. They're so much more intelligent. They know who needs it more than I do.
They're so much more wise than I am.
They're the Lord's anointed. They will take care of this gift of tithing. So.
And that's why cults work, is because they find members like that
Easier.
who, it's just easier. I'm going to trust you to be a steward over my money, my time, and that's why cults work, is because they find people who do that, who don't want to be personally responsible or accountable for where they put their money.
And within our cult, if you are very successful, you go out and work really hard and you're paying a large amount of tithing, they're going, well, this guy is bringing in, so we've got to advance him. We're going to give you a bishopric job or whatever it is. And if you do that well enough, then you can actually get up into the pretty high up into the AUB, based off if you're a hard worker or you are successful out in the world bringing money in. Although, usually if you want to get to the highest part of it, you have to know somebody. It's usually held within families. That's why a lot of family names are all the same in the council.
I know.
Or
that's why you get a lot of Jessups, you get a lot of Holdermans, you get a lot of,
It's all within a family group, like a mafia head. If you are a brother-in-law or a family member, usually gets in there. There were Allred's, Jessups, all trying to remember who all the council members are, but they knew they're all married within, they're all kind of a high ranking, and then you can become a council member.
Except for my dad. My dad was not, my dad was, he worked his way in there pretty young, because he was, what's your butt? You say it. I'm not saying it.
His mother was married to the prophet.
Oh, I forgot my grandma married the prophet. Shit.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. She did. My grandma did marry the prophet. She did divorce my grandpa for good reason. And then I think about 20 years later, she married the prophet. She married the prophet a month before I married my ex-husband. So I forgot about that. So
are council members related somehow?
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm picking up what you're laying down. Somebody says, yes, it's true. You have to give, even if it's not money. Yep. When you give with a pure heart, it comes back to you. And I agree. And we have taught this to our kids, that it is their responsibility to be a good steward over their time, money, resources, everything, and that they give to people who have the same values that they do. And so, I think you just got to learn who that is.
And we're all intelligent. Research. We're all very knowledgeable. We know somebody within our sphere of influence that are in need, and you pass that gift of helping on to that person, and it pays forward. And so then when we're in need, somebody jumps in and helps us.
Oh, so it's very true.
It's an amazing cycle if we take control of it, instead of handing it over to somebody else.
Well, and that's really where it comes down to, is accountability. It's accountability over what you're doing. And I don't believe that karmic, I believe in karmic energy, but I don't believe in karmic, you know what, I'm just going to hand over this money, I'm going to turn my head, and I don't care what you do with it, I just gave it. And so here I give. And then I'm deserving of all the blessings of giving, or I'm deserving of all the good karmic energy for giving. That's not, no, then you've given ignorantly, or you've given to a point where you don't want to be responsible or accountable for what happens to your money or your time or your resources. So anyways, I do too, Mallet, but it seems unfair that selfish people get so much without giving. And speaking of Robin, she says, and that's true. And so you're seeing this play out with the sister wives. You're seeing it where they gave willingly, believing that Cody was going to be a good steward over their money. This is a micro example of a huge church that has a ton of people that do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And they give believing that the leadership is doing what's best with their money. And they do. I mean, we all do that. When you donate to a charity of any sort, you believe that they're going to. And so, before I donate, I always ask, what percentage of this money actually goes to the cause, and what percentage of this money actually goes to administration fees or, admin, any sort of running the charity. I actually get the breakdown of where does all the percentages, for every dollar I give you, does 95% of that actually go into the cause, and 5% goes to administrative costs? And so I always ask before I donate, because too many times that 5% of every 5 cents of every dollar you give actually goes to the charity, and 95% goes to administration. And so I feel like it's our responsibility. There you go. I beat that one to death. So
well, that's how the church works, or that's how AUB works. So 95%, you're sitting there complaining because 95% of it goes to administration costs to buy that nice $1 million home. And so
yeah,
how selfish of you.
Oh my gosh, you would not believe. I've watched some of the money get spent, and it's gross. I mean, you think adult collection is gross? I mean, these people are literally starving. They're literally going without food and resources so that these leaders can live in $1 million homes.
Some of them.
Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah. When Pinesdale was running at full capacity, I don't feel like that we ate potatoes, we ate what we grew, but I keep telling, I never ate healthier than I did when I was growing up, because we ate everything that we grew and took care of. And then I got out here, and so I got chunky. So what they're saying too is, now this would more apply to Cory than me, but yes, they're saying Ruby Frankie tithed, not just, her kids didn't just pay tithing to the church, they paid tithing to her. Nice.
Which is something that you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had to pay tithing to the church, and then you had to give up 50%. Was it 50% of your wages to the family?
To the family, yeah.
As a form. So yes, that did happen in Cory's family.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't always happen on my side of the family. I mean, yes, I helped out, I did stuff like that, but some parents do feel that it is the children's responsibility to help run the household, help run the family.
Yeah. We were wage earners and there was a point in time when I no longer paid into the family, but I tried to help out the family, but this was later on when I was an adult. So yes, and my dad's genius plan was, when you get out into the world and start building stuff out there, you're going to have to pay taxes, and so we're just showing you how taxes work. So,
we're shaking it off right now. Hi, Bunny says, so she said she just saw that we are live. Yep, that's a good question. Are they required to give those stats by law? Yes, they are. When they do their tax filings, when they do their,
it's who required
the charities that you give. So there was a year that I became, this is where I became very aware of this kind of situation. I became the president of a local real estate community here in Salt Lake, and we do a huge charity event every year. We earn money, we get everyone from the real estate community to come in and donate and do all this stuff, right? So I looked up the charities of who we wanted to sponsor, because I wanted to ensure that if we were going to spend the time and the money and the resources to create a charity event, I wanted to make sure that it was actually going to what we said we were going to do. So there's a couple of different local charities. One, he runs a VA where he takes damaged vets, and so 95% of everything that we donate to him goes directly into the veterans to help them. 5% goes into a van that they use to transport the veterans, but the guy who runs the charity takes nothing. Yeah. And so I made sure that these companies these charities, then there was another one, a local man who does 100% of everything he raises goes in to feed local families during the holidays. And so I made sure, as the president, I felt like it was my responsibility, if we were going to be doing this huge charity auction. So we raised almost $35,000 that night for these particular charities, right? And so I was thinking, oh my gosh, we're donating $35,000 to these people. And I'm thinking, it's amazing. Well, then I go back to my board, and this is my first, I go into this presidency ignorant. I mean, I was the vice president the year before, but I guess maybe I was ignorant to some of the processes until I actually became the president, and I had to account for where all this money went. And my board comes back and they're like, yeah, we're not giving all that money away. We're doing, we're topping off our bank account first, maxing it out because we're considered a nonprofit. We're maxing that out. Then we're going to pay this back, and then we're going to pay this back. Well, it dwindled down to about $9,000 was what they were going with but what my board was willing to give back to the community. This is how I quickly learned how charities work and how charitable organizations work. And I was ashamed and embarrassed because I put my name on that, and I touted that as part of the sale to people. Hey, I vetted these companies. I made sure that 100% was going back into these companies, or 95. So
then you figured out very quickly you weren't one of those that gave back 95.
No, but I certainly did not allow. I think we ended up getting over $21,000 of the $35,000. But I had to fight with people over that in order to make that happen. And I was embarrassed and ashamed that I touted that on social media. I touted that to my local profession, or, my colleagues and my other, people in the profession. So yeah. So now I'm very, very careful and very conscious before I go donate money. Anyways, that was a long story. Sorry. It really burned me, and it chapped my hide when I saw how that actually worked, and the justifications that people made to keep that money. And I was like, this is not what we told people. This is not what we sold people. You heard me selling this for 8 months and nobody stopped me. Nobody said anything to me. And they're like, well, you're new to this program, so you don't understand. And these were the behind the scenes people who had been there for years. So yeah. Let's see if we can answer a couple more questions. Yeah, I don't know why we're on a subject of Cody's dad and marrying legal wives. I don't know. Utah right now is trying to get churches to pay road usage fees, no tax. It's a fight because the local organizations don't want to pay. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Even nonprofits are sketchy nowadays. You really have to do your research when giving your money. Absolutely you do. Yep. Let's see. I think we're behind on a conversation. I don't know what's happening over here. Did you say that you went live with Mary? If so, where can that be found? No, I've never gone live with Mary. No, I don't know. I don't want to, there's been a lot of chatter online about us being grifters and riding the coattails of the Browns. And to that I say, F off. I don't really care. I don't care if I go live with Mary or not. I adore Mary. I've always had a great relationship with Mary. But I don't need Mary to make our podcast or what we talk about relevant. And so I would love it if she went live with us, but I certainly would never ask her to do that. And so if it was something that she called and said, hey Mel, I've been watching your stuff, I'd love to go live with you, great, I would take it, but I wouldn't ask her to do that. Or Christine, or, I wouldn't ask any of them to do that. Let's see, but thank you. But no, there's some people who are like, oh, Cory and Melanie, notes to self, they're just grifters. They're just over here trying to ride the coattails. I'm like, dude, I'm already on the coattails of my dad riding it to heaven. I don't have time to be on the coattails of the Browns trying to ride it to fame.
Yeah,
so
the B's coattails.
I'm like, my dad's already taken us to heaven. That's one coattail enough. No, thank you. And so anyway, there you go. There's my little snot. Let's see. How much goes to the cooperation of the first presidency? Yeah, I can only imagine. I always say that. I'm just keep that opinion to myself.
Is that AUB or the
I don't know.
Church or
I don't know. Let's see.
I don't know those numbers. So.
And there's a couple people who asked questions that I wanted to get to. If I haven't answered your question on some of our lives, it's because I was waiting we're going to do a Q&A video where we're going to go through and answer so many of these questions because they're going to be longer answers. And so there's quite a few of them in here that I wanted to go back to and answer. Um, and so if you don't hear, if I've ignored your comment or whatever, because like I said before, if I answer it or respond to it, it disappears and then I can't find it. But I want to make sure that we get to that, because there's so many good questions in here. That, like, one of them was, I read The Lonely Polygamist by Brady Udall. I'd love to know how much of that is true and how much was not true. There, and then there's like a list of like 8 questions on here that I want to get to. What are you saying?
There's no, we all don't need to hear. I don't feel like we're writing the Browns' coattail. We're telling our own story of how we grew up in it. The Browns and sister wives thing was the pretty version that eventually fell apart
Right.
of it, and that it's awesome that everybody gets to see the Brown story, because that is literally, you got to see it over time. I'm liking the first couple episode or seasons. I'm understanding what they're saying at the beginning, that they want a closed society creates I don't know, the perverts like living in closed society. So if we opened up that society and said, hey, this is just normal, which has happened, I feel like, with the Browns, so they accomplished their goal there. But what they didn't, and it might be the goal that they also accomplished, that polygamy is hard. Living this lifestyle is very difficult. So, and it's damaging, and so to the family, to the kids, it's a hard work. Those who manage it, bravo to you guys, but
it's a lot of
hard work. And so we as the outside people looking in at the Browns get to see how not only they wanted everybody to accept more along the lines of polygamy, so that the kids and these families aren't raised up in a closed society where a lot of other negative things happen, but you can also see how difficult polygamy is. So you have to be, one of their teachings, I mean, you're not supposed to seek pleasure. You're supposed to be humble. There's all these attributes that get you to heaven by being humble, not being lustful, not following worldly things. And so most of these men who are in polygamy, and women, are trying to be righteous about it and not letting their feelings move to this point of jealousy. When one man's lusting or enjoying the another wife, they're not supposed to be jealous, and those women are not necessarily, I guess, trying to be lustful. They're only having this worldly sex and things like that for creating offspring and not for pleasure. So,
right. Yeah. Cory's little sister Katie says, we don't have to grift off the. Let me go back up here to it. She says, y'all don't need to hear the Brown story again. You all already lived it. And it's true. You did already live it. And so, And so
I just lived it from more of the kids' version. Some of it, and it's interesting that as the kids became adults, they were like, I don't even want to be a part of the show anymore. I don't want to be. I felt like I went through a phase of that too, where I'm like, whew, I'm out of this. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. And it's later on in life that I'm like, well, I'd like to talk about it and explain it, so that, because I've been very thankful, knock on wood, that I have 5 children, and none of them are part of the AUB. None of them are a part of. I have communicated the scary parts about becoming a cult. I want them to think for themselves, and they do think for themselves, even though they're being shamed constantly by other family members that are still infiltrated in those cults, that your parents didn't teach you the whole of the gospel, and you should still cling to this or cling to that, have a foot within a cult. Even if you don't believe the whole story, you should be at least part of the Mormon story.
Right.
And we have no, think for yourself, get your own opinion on the matter. And I have spoke out against the cults that I know, that I see, and raised questions about it with my kids. And now I'm like, okay, I've done all right. 5 amazing human beings are in this world against all the shame that they have got from other people that I'm still in contact with, because they are family, they are related, and these kids have moved past that and do think for themselves. And so maybe I can have my voice go out there and talk to other kids, other adults that are thinking about joining something like this. Here's a little bit of a red flag. And so I think Sister Wives was amazing, because not only did it show, hey, there are these people out there, and a lot of people didn't know about polygamists. We were a hidden society. And so not only did it open people's eyes from the outside, but it also showing you guys all the red flags of what cult-like behavior and mentality is. So you guys can be aware of it and not join one. So,
well, and too, I mean, I have had so many people from the AUB reach out to me since we started talking about this. And, you know, I'm not a licensed therapist by any means, and I'm not, and so we've referred people to Holding Out Help quite a bit. But yeah, I definitely want to shed light on some of the things that happen. And we don't always want to talk about just the hard things or the negative things that happen. There's a lot of positive things that happen in our lives too. But if you are currently in the AUB, or you're thinking about leaving the AUB, and you need somebody to talk to, please always feel free to reach out to us. We really keep those conversations in the utmost confidences. And so we would love to give you any resources or help out in any way that we can. Because it is scary. Cory's little sister Katie says, it's funny how hard their dad tried to keep them from the outside world. And now my whole purpose is to keep my kids from the AUB.
Yeah.
And we feel that way. We absolutely feel that way, that we want to keep our kids from these cults. And so we're not just trying, if we were trying to make money off of this, we wouldn't take a whole week off of YouTube to do our real jobs. We would be on YouTube a lot more. This is not why, I mean, and if we have made just enough money off of YouTube to put back into our own equipment, and it is not a livable wage, that's for sure. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we want, just like what Katie said, we want to wake people up who have been victims in these kind of situations, who know nothing else.
We want to educate. I'm loving having connections with so many fellow people out there, but the whole reason that I decided, okay, I'm going to sit down and talk was
because your wife made you?
Yeah, well, it was that, but I also wanted to get my voice out there to nieces, nephews, part of people that, family members that were still a part of it, and talk to everybody about the red flags that I'm seeing, the questions that I'm having, that they might see on this platform that I don't necessarily get to sit down and talk with them. A lot of times when I go up to visit, I love having conversations, joking around, having fun with my family up there, but I think a lot of people are leery of what I say. I definitely don't get to talk about religion up there, because I'm now an apostate, and so I've been turned over to the buffetings of Satan, and so anything that comes out of my mouth about religion is probably poisoned by Satan. So
somebody says, let's see, sorry, shoot, where did that just go? It was hilarious. Let me find it, about the Paul Harvey comment. I was trying to find that. Did you see that?
Oh, thanks, Bree.
Thank you, Bridget. We appreciate, Bridget. Thank you. Gosh, where? Yeah.
Open it up a bit.
Let me get back up here. Sorry. Okay, she says, you guys are like Paul Harvey, and that's the rest of the story.
Yeah, the rest of
And so, yeah, that's what I feel like too, is that I do feel like you don't, especially like, I know when the Duggards came out, people didn't know a lot about the religion that they came from. When there's so many, TLC is only going to tell certain things. When you do, you have to go into like a deep dive documentary to get the rest of the story, just like you said, the rest of the story. And they're not going to tell a lot of that on TV. They're just not. They don't have the time for it, and I think it would lose people. They're there for entertainment, where they're not there to educate you on the religious and aspect of it. They're there to entertain you about the religious aspect.
In fact, Robin even says that in season 1. The things that we're talking about are considered sacred. So I find it interesting. Yes, we did this sacred private. That's not for you guys. That's not for.
Just like like Cody and sacred. Robin's sacred ceremony was not for the general public to view. Yeah.
If they are going to talk about that, then they're not going to talk about that with people outside of their community, even people in their community that haven't been through it. These are secret, sacred covenants. So I find it interesting that there's certain things that they will keep secret and sacred, and hey, we're just here to show you how our family is. We're normal just like you. But they got this secret sacred stuff in the background, but he will bring it out to, what is it called, throw it in the face of the ex-husband that, look at, I'm doing one of these sacred blessings for not only for the whole world to see, but to show that I'm taking control of it. So he'll use those, what she considers or what they consider secret and sacred, to kind of keep some of it still hidden. And most people who do a deep dive in it can find out each and every one of their sacred covenants that they do and why they do it. And
so a lot of times if people will make a comment and ask us, hey, what about this, I'm like, you can YouTube that. That's like, there's a million videos out there about what garments look like. There's a million videos out there about what like the temple ceremony is. There's tons of that kind of stuff. So I do try to give people the resources that they want. But TLC's there for entertainment. They're not there to educate people.
And to be honest with you, I don't know their secret. All I know is from secondhand, because I had way too many questions about I studied before I ever got to that point in my life, and I had too many questions, and I was deemed not worthy to receive because I had doubts about their origin. I had doubts about what they were asking me to swear. And so because I had doubts, I was not allowed to get those ordinances, and I didn't get married within there. And so, a lot of but I could have got married in the Mormon temple, but when I went and asked questions in there and saw it was the exact same, AUB took it from the Mormon, original Mormon thing, so it's identical, if you will. I know the Mormons have changed it a little bit, but I chose at that point not to do it. I'm not going to go in and make an oath and a covenant to follow. I'm not going to be a part of a cult. And so which broke the heart of my Mormon family too, because I refused to go through their temple, just like I wasn't ever given the opportunity to go through the polygamist temple, but I was, and I refused it on the Mormon side because I wasn't going. So I don't have personal experience of going through any of their temples. I just studied it and went, no, I don't want that to be a part of my life. I don't feel like I have to swear allegiance or make a covenant to their God to be able to be a good person. So I don't have any of my covenants or blessings.
So it's interesting to me though too, because when people do, come after us and say stuff like that, I'm just like, you realize I was raised in a cult too, right? You realize I'm sharing experiences based on my, I'm sharing stories based on my own experiences. So it does get heavy sometimes to be like, well, wait a second, and I can ignore 99% of everything that's said. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. But there's sometimes where I'm just like, is this worth it? Is this worth talking out? We were severely abused. I was severely abused. Trudging up some of that stuff it gets hard sometimes. And sometimes I don't know if it's always worth putting ourselves out there publicly like that. And especially where I do tend to just bleh and say it, and I don't filter my words very well. But there are a lot of good creators out there. I love growing up in polygamy with Sam and Melissa. We're going to see them on Friday. They're going to be at this event, and so I feel like those are the people that I try to focus on and keep. I'm never out. I love so many of the Browns. There's a lot of them are very my favorite people. And I am not here to try to ride a coattail off them or make money off of them in any way. I am grateful that they put their necks out, and somebody says they showed us how polygamy doesn't work. And I think that they did their best with what they had, and I'm not here to sit and criticize and pick them apart. It's like, thank you for the Paul Harvey, because that is exactly how it is. It's just, here's the rest of the story. Here's what really happened. Here's what, or here's what we think happened.
Here's our version of it.
Here's what So thank you so much. So blessed, Canadian. We appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, and then just scrapping your back again. Hi, how are you? Let's see. Cory's sister says, Katie says, I watched some other creators, one in particular, talk about the kids from the AUB like they know how it is. Made me mad. I'm glad Mel decided to speak out on our behalf instead. Thank you. Yeah, because really, and everyone in the AUB has different experiences. Cory and my experiences growing up are completely different. And so it's like, and we have so much content that we want to create right now. It's crazy how much content we want to create. And yet we do have real lives too. We do have 5 children, 6, 7 that we've adopted, and grandbabies and all sorts of stuff. And so, but we have this ginormous list of things that we want to get out to you guys. And so we are going to we have literally watched season 2, episode 1 at least twice now. And we have pages that we want to comment on it. Because I do want to watch the seasons where they move. And I don't know that we'll get deep dived into a lot of it, but we do want to watch some of that.
The interesting part is our daughter said that you've kind of got a big enough following and you're doing something good if you've got some haters out there. So Melanie's doing really, really good. She's amazing. I'd like some more haters this way so I can feel accomplished that I've made it to the next level.
I have quite a few fans out there. Thank you all.
Yeah,
I don't look at them as haters, they're fans.
Yeah.
They're just fans. So
I've got this, even those people that hate me really do deep down like me because I'm funny. So
yeah, somebody says it's hard to research the AUB. It really is. They've really tried to keep so much of it on the down low.
Yeah, they've kept. I feel like that they were more in the news back before that lawsuit. So
back before the
lawsuit,
the money laundering lawsuit, the AUB was in the news a lot. Yeah. My dad did a lot of
interviews and stuff like that. They wanted to say, hey, no, we're normal people out here. But one of the things that is interesting that the Browns did do is there's laws on the books for bigamy, and that's why I was reading up on it. And now the state of Utah chose not to,
prosecute?
To enforce it. Yeah, they're not going to enforce those bigamy laws that are on the books all over the world. So bigamy laws have gone all the way back to the Roman Empire. So I did a whole bunch of research on that. The Romans started that.
We've actually learned so much too. Things that we were just taught that we don't, they're not things that come up for us very often. And so then talking to you guys and having the questions that you guys ask us, it's really helped us to go do a deep dive too, because we're like, we don't know. We have never researched bigamy. We just knew that we didn't live bigamy, right? We lived polygamy. And so this has given us an opportunity to really do some good research on our end to figure out, like, what is it that we're talking about. And I've had to call people because we want to make sure that we're giving as accurate information as possible. And so I've literally had to call other family members. Hey, have you heard this? Is this right? Is this, this is my interpretation of this. What do you think? And try to get other people's opinions. So yeah, somebody says your voices help those still in it to realize the red flags, and that that there are kind, loving people in this world that will champion for them. Thank you. Yeah, I have literally had dozens of women reach out to me since this started. And at first I felt like ill-equipped, and I remember having a couple good cries like, I don't know what to do for these people. I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to serve them best. How do I do that? And so I feel like we're always kind of readjusting where we're coming from, because it feels like a big responsibility, and I know how these women feel because I was there, and that feeling of, where's the floor? I don't know, like the floor falls out underneath you and you don't know what you're gonna do. And when I was 25 with 3 little babies and that floor fell out from underneath me, I had no idea. It was either learn how to fly or you're dead. Yeah. And so it's scary. So sometimes I feel ill-equipped to handle some of that, which is why I reach out to Holding Out Help so often, is because I know that they have the resources to help these women. And I didn't have those resources back then. I relied on anyone who would give me a job. The Dargers, Joe Darger, that's when I worked for Joe Darger. And he, I know a lot of people talk about Joe Darger because they've seen him on Sister Wives and stuff, but that, I have a lot of respect for him because he helped make sure that I didn't completely lose my life back then, because he gave me a job and he was very kind and caring to me back then when I didn't know what to do when the floor fell out. So yeah, a lot of, and so sometimes it's hard to tell our own stories and then get criticized for it. It's like, are you kidding me right now?
Well, it's a reassurance when you make that huge leap of faith and you step out. I feel like the Indiana Jones, where you step out looking to see the world's going to fall out from under you, and so to be able to talk to somebody like you that has went down that path and go, I'm making this huge leap of faith. Am I going to hit something? And yes, you are. Hey, everything's okay. Keep making that next step. It's that reassurance that, hey, this person left the AUB and is thriving and has created this amazing family. And so it reassures. So just talking to them, I feel like is helping them go, no, it's okay to leave. It's okay to take that step, and we'll try to get more resources for those people and help them out as we can. But it's just a reassurance that, hey, you're going to be okay out here in the world. It's not as scary as you think it is. So,
and honestly,
good people everywhere, amazing people that follow us.
Oh my gosh, you got so many people have been so amazing. Yeah, honestly, when I left, I was 25 and I didn't graduate high school. I didn't go to my senior year of high school at all. I had a baby. I got married over the summer between my junior and senior year. I got married in June and had a baby that next March, had a baby 9 months later. So I didn't go. And so I remember thinking, what am I going to do with 3 little babies? And I mean, my baby was 1 when I left my husband. He was just a couple months old when I found out my husband's extracurricular activities had gotten to the point where I needed to get a divorce. And so it was so hard because I'm like, I have a 2-month-old. What am I going to do about this? And so it's not easy to try to relive that and share some of those stories. It's hard to share some of those, and then to be criticized about how I share them or how I choose to share them. And it's interesting too, because I don't remember who we were watching, but there was a lot of ums and a lot of and like a lot of filler words that we tend to do a lot, because it's scary to share your story and you don't know if you're saying it the right way or doing it the right way. And so things don't come off. We're not polished public speakers by any means.
No.
We are not as articulate as we could be. We're getting better than we were when we started, but we're still got a long ways to go.
Somebody, I believe there is another YouTube creator. Is that that's Sam and those guys, right?
I don't know. Where are you seeing that? Sorry.
Here.
I believe there is another YouTube creator, husband and wife duo, that publishes links on their lives for housing. Yes,
Okay,
for
that's
housing and leaving the AUB. Yeah, so I will be talking.
And or polygamy.
Yeah, about polygamy. So I believe that is Sam and Melissa with Growing Up in Polygamy.
Yeah, and Sam came from the FLDS.
Yeah, and they've
Right.
been such a huge
They are
resource for us.
amazing, yeah.
They have helped us in, when we weren't getting our audio right, and I'm emailing them going, can you guys help us? And they have been some of the kindest people ever. We have really appreciated them. Thank you guys so much. I want to go back up here and notice, just Scrapping says, I keep missing your lives, but my live court is off this 4-week spring break. I could watch you every day and check you for 10 minutes, 10 times a day. Anyone else check for their content 10 times a day? More content,
we
please.
Need to be putting more in.
We
yeah.
really-
we
thank
are.
you.
We're working on that.
Thank you.
I got super busy, and so she's been getting a lot of stuff going, and then I get home from work, and okay, let's watch this. And
If you
try to
follow
do
our
it.
Instagram, we were trying to do some content yesterday. All of a sudden he's snoring, and I did a video on on our stories on Instagram. I was like, this is how riveting Sister Wives content is for him.
Yeah.
Because we've been trying to do the rewatch episode 1, season 2, episode 1. Yeah, I can't keep Cory's attention.
I know. I've been showing a ton of houses, so I'm out driving around showing houses and everything, and then I come back. Okay, let's do it. Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. So no, I promise what we make on here is not a livable wage, but we do
we'll try to put
appreciate
out
everything
more,
you guys. Yeah, we do.
We're taking pages of notes and questions that we're like, okay, we need to make some content on that one. So.
Yeah. Somebody says, was your ex, or just Scrapping says, was your ex able to cheat with no repercussions? I actually wanted to address that last comment that you made. I actually went through and watched one of your court videos. Thank you so much for sending that. That is fascinating. I haven't showed it to Cory yet. But yeah, your court videos are fascinating. But yeah, was your ex able to cheat with no repercussions? Well, I finally, after about 4 years, was able to get a release. It took me about 1.5 years, almost 2 years of really pushing the prophet to give me that release. And then it finally took me just calling the prophet one day and just demanding, stepping way far out of the lines of what's appropriate for a woman to be able to speak to a man and a prophet. Be a prophet was not an easy conversation to have, but I was just done at that point. And so it took a long time for that to happen. So he feels like his punishment was way more severe than what he deserved, because I was able to get a release and and then I filed. We never legally got married, but I filed for a legal divorce to gain full custody of our children. So in his mind, he was way overpunished for what happened.
Well, and there were repercussions because he's not been allowed
to come back
to be a part of the AUB, and he has tried to get back in the AUB, and he's not allowed to be a part of the AUB and get AUB wives. He's more than welcome to go out in the world just like me.
Yeah, so he's not. Yeah, he's definitely. So there are
repercussions.
Right. So. Yeah. So let's see. This channel can be a beacon of hope to people still trapped in a high controlled group, and truly, that's really what we want it to be too. And honestly, we are doing the Sister Wives rewatch and recap because it gets us more familiar with talking and getting and it gets Cory more familiar in front of the camera. It gets me more familiar. It gets us to be able to refine how we deliver our message a lot more than it's just, we don't know what to say, and it's funny because we were watching, sorry, I'll finish this thought and then I'll let you take over. We were watching when all the Sister Wives went on Good Morning America with Meredith, and Meredith asks Cody a question and he just sits there like, and so I feel like that's kind of where we have been to some degree. We get that deer in the headlight look sometimes like, well, we don't know where to go with that. And so so we appreciate using some of the Sister Wives content to refine our delivery and how we create our own videos. And, we made a video of just our personal lives. And everyone was like, where did you guys go? Where's your snarkiness? Where did, and it is, when we sit down and tell our own stories in that content form, it's scary. So, sorry, take over, Ben.
That was exactly it. I was watching the Cody one, and I'm like, yep, that was me. That when we first sat down, I'm just like, you'd say, what do you think about that? And I'm like, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's actually getting comfortable talking about how we grew up, getting comfortable of like, can I say this about their religious beliefs? Yes, I can. They taught it.
And then I just say it, and Cory, you're like.
So, and then I try to add content. She's saying it just blunt and hard and using worldly terms that AUB would never approve, and so then I bring it down to the AUB's sweet, kind way that they say things. So.
And I just don't have a lot of tolerance.
She doesn't. That. She speaks in Gentile.
But I do try to have charity and compassion and empathy for people. I really do. But sometimes it's just like, all right, we're having this blunt conversation. I mean, you guys, if anyone you caught like my live with my sister, and she just says it a lot more than I do. So somebody says, thank you, Bridget. She says, you're a validation for the seekers. Your lived experience is so valuable, and your kind and open hearts make you approachable from those who haven't gotten as far yet, says this recovering Catholic. Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. We really appreciate that, because we really do want to be there for people coming out. And my goal, is not to hurt the Browns or criticize the Browns. It's, I adore Mary, and I've always loved Christine most of my life, and I would never want to do that to their kids either.
It's awesome to see them making the steps and coming out of it's interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that I wasn't on TV and communicating with you guys when I fresh came out of polygamy or the cult at 18, 19, 20. I would have been still so indoctrinated, and so I understand and see as she's talking and communicating to the world of what they want to accomplish, but she still has those questions that with her snarkiness, I think I had that a lot too, but then to see her evolve over the seasons where, this isn't even a lifestyle that I want to live anymore. Yeah. This isn't, and we do want, I don't know, I see these kids growing up in it and doing it, but at a certain point they're like, we want to learn kind of on our own and ask the questions on our own without the cameras here. So
and we definitely, there's been so many times where I'm like, I normally don't wear makeup or do anything like that. We work from home, there's not a lot of reason to, and then there's be days where I'll put a little bit of makeup on and then we don't record because work comes up or something. I'm like, damn it, I just wasted all that. And so it's just funny. So it's hilarious, the learning curves and the growing pains that we've kind of gone through figuring all this out. But no, we do appreciate it. You guys are saying a lot of very kind things. Thank you. Somebody says, I was 25 and had 2 under the age of 3 and relocated to a mountain town from Los Angeles, limited skills, etc. It was daunting. That was one of the scariest things I've ever done, is try to figure out what to do with no education. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have anybody to lean on. I didn't have any resources. You didn't talk about polygamy when I left. So I left back in 99, and I finally got my release from the church in 2000 and my illegal divorce in 2001. It took a long time to get everything done. And I remember we didn't talk about polygamy openly like that. I mean, I wasn't a polygamist, but I was very, very indoctrinated. And where did I go? What do I do? Who's going to give me, and it was kind people like Joe Darger who did reach out and gave me resources, and a couple of his wives who gave me resources to help me. And there's a lot of great people out there who want to help other people. Bunny says, there's a lot of good creators in the Sister Wives community. Not all of them are cutthroat. And I absolutely agree. I mean, so many sweet people have reached out to us. Yeah. I know somebody had said earlier about Nikki, they thought I looked like Nikki or Nikki looked like me. Nikki's the one who actually got us I was making my little short form content on TikTok, and Nikki saw one of my videos and sent it out there. And she's actually the one who was like, I don't know who this girl is, but she's got so much good information. And if you don't follow her, please go follow her. So she has just been wonderful. Yeah. So yeah, there's so many content creators out there who have just been so wonderful to us.
And supported us and gave us a platform, interviewed us, and
right.
a whole bunch. They're amazing.
Yeah. So no, we definitely, there's just the one or two, and sometimes I take it too personally. Like I said, 99% of it, I let it just roll off, and we don't get a lot. Yeah, it's just one or two, but sometimes that one will stick a little bit, and then I'm just like, F you. And yes, the F-bomb does roll out of my mouth sometimes, where I'm just like, F off. Like, I literally suffered shame and guilt and abuse growing up. I'm not going to take it from some stranger on the internet. And then, yeah. Anyways, there's so many more resources now leaving the Mormon religion and all offshoots than there was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So many more. And I hope that I just can be that for somebody, if that's, if they are thinking about leaving or are thinking about, and they have small children and they don't know what they're going to, there is hope. There is, just like they said, holding out help. There are people out there who want to help and love you and your children. I do love a good F-bomb. I won't even lie about that. And so somebody says, oh, thank you, just scrapping. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Leave comments. YouTube won't suggest their channel unless we interact with them. Thank you. Yeah, see, we always forget to do all the promotion parts of it. People will text us or direct messages, and they're like, why don't you have this on your platform? Why don't you have this? I'm like, I don't know. We didn't know about that yet. So, let's see. My theory of Robin is a constant cry is to make up for the lack of filming in her house. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. In 1999, I left on my birthday. What a gift I gave to myself. Yes. How amazing is that? See, and I left when, I was so grateful that things came down the way that they did, because I'd left and then gone back and then left my ex-husband. I'd left him, gone back, it'd been this back and forth thing for years. And, finally something happened that was just like a cement and I was like, I can't go back. I can't do this anymore. And so when I left him, I left the All Red group. Well, I guess it's the AUB. We always called it the All Red group growing up. And so I left the group completely at that point. And it was really one of the best decisions. I mean, obviously, if not the best decision. Marrying you was a pretty high up there too, though. Hell.
At least a second time.
So yeah, let's see. That interview that Growing Up with Polygamy did with you two is how I found you two. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Yeah, I adore them. I'm really excited to see them on Friday. So at the charity event. So, Bunny says, thank you guys so much for these. I believe they're super chats. So someone asked what happened to the girls who get pregnant out of wedlock in the AUB. I was actually going to make a video on this one too. There's so many videos I got to make, but I just haven't. So a lot of times it depends on the situation, and it depends on the girl and her last name, who her parents are. It's very politically motivated on who, I remember being young one time, and there was a girl who got up in front of church, and she went off about, she was pregnant out of wedlock. And her dad was one of the bigger people in the AUB, and then fell away, and he was no longer a part of the AUB. And she went off about people will not disrespect her or her child because she got pregnant out of wedlock. And I remember I was sitting there twiddling with my girlfriends, like, just all of a sudden she just like boom across the pulpit and says all this stuff, and I was like, oh shoot. I watched her, and she felt so threatened that the only way in my experience, the only way she knew how to handle that was to come out swinging at people like, you will not disrespect my daughter because of choices I made that she had no control over. And so I feel like it depends. And right after that speech, I don't think she ever really went out to the AUB again. She just left. She just wanted to make a big announcement on her way out the door, which I don't blame her for feeling that way. But there's also been people I know that have gotten pregnant, and it's brushed under the rug very quickly.
They're usually married quickly.
They get married right away, immediately. If they choose to stay in the AUB, they'll get married right away. And then typically within a year, they will go through the endowment house or the temple, depending, again, like I said, depending on who they are, if they decide to stay in the AUB or not. Now, there are some who decide they don't want to go through the AUB temple and they just stay married, and they still actively go to church, they still actively communicate in the communities, they just don't have the church stealing or marriage. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens too. And I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, it's interesting because I have an aunt and uncle who, he was married and she got pregnant, and she was an affair, and they got pregnant together, so he ended up getting divorced from his first wife, ends up marrying her, and then I think like a year or two later they went through the endowment house, and then he got like 5 more wives. So he went on to be a full-fledged polygamist and have 5 wives after that. So I think it just kind of depends. What are you smirking at?
Just it is. It's depending on which family and who they are. You're supposed to be able to, if you get pregnant out of wedlock, usually you're encouraged to get married because you've chosen to start a family together. And then then you have to go through the repentance process. But it takes a lot of repentance and paying a good tithing and following all the rules and the laws before you would be able to become
you have to go through a repentance process. And some people don't want to do that.
Some families can do that, and the person who did that then has multiple wives later on because he's gone through the repentance stage. Other families, it's like, no, you don't get any other wives. You guys chose to, unless you continuing your pattern and get somebody else pregnant and then have to get married. I'm just kidding.
No. Bridget says, I took a mental health day today and I feel like this is the perfect balm listening to this live chat. Thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that. Carolyn says, I left once. The abuse made me worried he'd do something serious to me and take my kids and a newborn at 22 months. Yeah. That is really, that is the only thing that I fought for when I got divorced was full legal custody of my kids. And I did not get married legally, and I didn't realize I could file for a legal divorce, but we had been married, we'd been together for 10 years. And so that's why it took 2 years for me to get a legal divorce, is because he fought it the entire way. And but that was the only thing that I wanted to make sure is that I got full legal custody of my kids. Somebody says, speaking of holding out hope, would you be able to do an interview with Christine's aunt that was featured on the show? I think you would both, I think by both of you leaving, you might have things in common. I don't know that we have a lot in common. I know who you're speaking of. I've known her my whole life. I don't know that we have a lot in common. I don't know. I mean, I think we see things very differently coming out of it. I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed. Just talk to her and see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. But they're not people that I'm like seeking out, trying to get interviews with, because hell, I'm still trying to learn how to talk myself, let alone try to interview somebody else. We are going to be going on Pop Psych. We're going to be doing a couple of different episodes with them, and so that I think will be coming out soon. So if you guys want to watch for that, that's one of Cory's favorite YouTube channels.
I don't fanboy out and become an idiot.
Yeah, Cory likes really. I mean, I like them too. I appreciate their content too. I've never gotten into the YouTube video watching like Cory has. Yeah. I go into the ayahuasca watchings or the meditation videos. I don't ever really do polygamy content as much. Let's see. Maybe you have spoken out on this, but do you have any information, or you can coordinate the Lost Boys theory wherein the young men are kicked out to keep the girls from the older men? Yes, I think that's
to keep the young girls for the older men.
Did I say from? Yeah.
To keep them so that the righteous men, those men that have been in there and are following, can increase their.
Yeah.
Because you have to have 3 wives to move up to a certain calling, and then 7 wives to move up to the next, or the 5 wives and then 7 wives.
Yeah.
And so if nobody wants to marry an old righteous man because there's young men around, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and the AAB doesn't really per se have like lost boys, but if there was some, Cory would fall into that category.
Yeah.
So he was asked to leave at 24. Let's see, was the Truth magazine still big with your generation? Oh, what?
Wasn't asked to leave at
You were
24.
forced to leave. You were like, get out.
I was just told I couldn't ever come back up on polygamous property. I was already leaving. So,
oh, true.
So I'd already been not following their things. I was just invited to, and I was moving away, never to come back, and they were like, I'm like, see you guys, and they're like, nope, you're asked not to ever come back. And
I love that comment. Somebody's like, you can't quit, you're fired.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I'll be fired, and I'm out of here. So.
Yeah. So somebody says, was the Truth magazine still big with your generation? I think that was Musser's magazine's name. Yes, they were. I actually have every single copy of the Truth magazine in my basement right now.
My parents did too, so yes.
Yeah, they created like these huge books. They're probably like really thick, this thick. And then they put every single magazine in each one of the books, and I still have it in the basement. I don't, it's just part of like the storage stuff from when we moved from, when we built this home and moved into it. There's a bunch of stuff that we put in boxes that are just in our basement that we've never really gone through again. And so, yeah, I do have every single copy of the Truth magazines. And part of me too, as we've been going through this and learning stuff, like we're not church historians. I never have been a church historian. Cory knows way more about that than I do. But there's times where I'm like, we should pull out some of this old writings to see, because you can't find this stuff anywhere anymore. And so, and here we just have it in boxes in our basement. I'm like, we should almost pull some of that out and read some of it.
I gotta find mine. I put a lot of this stuff. I don't know if I threw it away or if I just put it in storage, but Book of Mormons that I did all my study notes in and stuff like that. It was,
I know, we're like,
when
how
I
deep
was
do we want to go?
Yeah, when I was young, I was a follower. I wanted to be the best of the best, and it wasn't, and because I studied so hard, I had so many questions that the leadership
did not
like or even know the answer to. So
yeah,
belief. You gotta believe in that, son. So
let's see. How accurate was Big Love's depiction of the treatment of Bill's mother, Lois? Oh my gosh, I was dying. I love her. First of all,
watch it again.
Remember, she's the one where she's like trying to kill Bill's dad.
Oh, poison
and then
him.
Yeah, and so how many, like, do you know a bunch of old ladies like that? I do. I swear, there's so many. I just think she is so funny in that series because I know a lot of women who are like that. So
my dad's first wife, she was awesome. He used to make up a stew and he'd put mushrooms in it, and mushrooms that a lot of times he would harvest.
They just went up on the mountain and found them.
So she's like, "You're trying to kill all of us," and he's like, "Well, so he called it suicide stew. So eat it at your own risk." Kamikaze stew. There you go.
Yeah.
Kamikaze stew is what and so the family still makes kamikaze stew, and anything that if they harvest their own mushrooms up there and put it in the stew, then it's called kamikaze stew. So
yeah.
Eat it at your own risk. And she was hilarious about it. We would laugh and back and forth that he was trying to poison her. So it works both ways.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. I love Lois on that show. So Big Love is fun to watch. It does hit a little bit closer to home because I'm like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. But one of the things I kind of wanted to do eventually, and possibly over the summer, see, I kind of do just want to move on from Sister Wives. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and we'll probably go through and hit some of the highlights of it. But I would love to do a rewatch of Big Love because it's hilarious to me. But Handmaid's Tale is one of the ones that I want to talk about too. Yeah. Handmaid's Tale will bring up a different level of trauma for me, because I felt so oppressed like that. And so, but in the new season's coming on, I believe it starts like April 12th or something like that. And so I'm like really, it's one of those love-hate relationships with a show that I love to watch it, but then at the same time I'm just, what the, because you are so, I remember feeling so out of control over my life. And I didn't have any way to control my own life. I didn't have any way to control the men who abused me. What?
Well, the interesting thing about a cult and things like what was it called again? The Handmaid's Tale. Is anything that is there's certain people that read the scriptures, the Bible, the whatever scriptures they come up with, and they will go through and look for the
cherry pick whichever ones they need.
Well, the positive. Then there are the fanatics, and they will look into, I mean, every single thing in there. Even we read things about Lot and go, that's disgusting, things like that. A fanatic will latch on to that and bring it into at some day in the future.
These men are going to have to lay with their daughters to reproduce.
Keep their line pure. That's a fanatical, and so how many fanatic, and that's what a closed society religion like this attracts, is those fanaticals. And eventually, if those fanaticals grow big enough and come into power, then you get Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, then you get the Handmaid's Tale.
You get things like that. And so, who take so many of what probably is a storyline of what not to do, and they take it and go, let's do it. Let's do that. So yeah, be aware of the fanaticals that get attracted to.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my mom yesterday for like 3 hours. When my mom and I get on the phone, it's like hours long that we talk. We were talking about the Handmaid's Tale, and I was telling her about how I felt that controlled and that dominated growing up. I didn't feel like I had options or choices, but yet you're always told that you do, and so it's like, oh no, I didn't have to do this. I did that of my own free will. Well, did you really?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, and the scary part of a cult like this is there's probably the majority of people that are believing, hey, we should live polygamy, raise a righteous seed, do all of these things. And then you get the fanaticals in there who study and learn the scripture, you know what I mean? And as they become, oh, this guy's very knowledgeable, they get bigger and bigger and become higher up in the church and then get in control.
Yeah.
Then some of these guys bring out their fanatical beliefs where the majority of the people in it are like, no, that's
not
wrong.
how I interpreted that.
And then there is a huge separation. And so these churches are growing in size. The fanatics get in charge of it, and then there's separations, and it's creating more churches and more split ops, and so hopefully these young kids are seeing that and they going, wait a minute, I don't want to be a part of any of these groups.
Yeah.
I wake up enough to not be controlled by any of these groups, not have a different belief system than what I've had indoctrinated my whole life, 18 years of 20 years of my life. So
well, and I think so much of what Cory just said is going to answer this next question. Do you know if other fundamentalist groups like the FLDS have the 3 wives rule as well? I've heard different things. So that really goes down to what he was just saying. It depends on which person is studying what at the time, and are they going to radicalize it fanatically? And so then you get different prophets with different teachings. And so we've said this, I've said this from the very beginning, that the AUB changes their mind all the time. Their rules change all the time. It depends on who you are, depends on your last name. And so, yeah, I don't know that every single polygamist community has those, because I haven't taken the time to research what they teach. Well, but I don't know that they do.
Some of the communities have just, because as they've done a split off, they're just following somebody that has a different belief system, and they have a group of people going with them. They might not have 2 or 3 wives, but they now became the prophet. But the base teachings, as I understood them, was once you have 3 wives, you've created a unity, or you needed 3 wives to
trilogy.
Yeah, But if you wanted to get into leadership position where you're teaching the masses controls, you needed a quorum, which was 7 wives. And I'm sure major leaders within the church have had 30 wives. I'm sure there's other numbers that we're not told about.
Yeah.
To get them even higher, to get.
I know, because I remember hearing something about 12 wives one time.
Yeah.
But I don't know the doctrine.
So those are
behind
higher
that.
teachings that we were, because I never
Us
even
lowly
got
people
one
are not
wife,
taught.
we're not taught. You would get that the higher doctrine when you went through their temples, and
Right.
and you were invited to firesides where once you've reached a certain level within their
Higher teachings are taught.
33 level Mason, then you're able to
Right.
because okay, this is just my opinion.
Here comes
again.
some snark from Cory.
Yeah, my opinion again. The basis of their belief system, the Mormon Church, everything, is almost identical
to the
Freemasons. So they learned it from the Freemasons and refined it into Mormonism, which then refined it into these communities, polygamous communities, the only ones keeping the true gospel alive, because the Mormons have adjusted it, even though each one of these communities are adjusting their belief systems constantly too. So
yeah. No, Cory deep dives into Freemasonry all the time.
Because honestly, some guy comes up with a teaching or a revelation that we're going to have to, just like Lot lay with the daughters, there are going to be a lot of people in the community that are going, nefarious revelation. That's
well, and you kind of do.
But,
He's talking about, you keep saying the Lot, but you just like brush over it really quick. Lot from the Bible, who slept with his daughters to reproduce. That's what he's talking about. So you're just saying it so where I don't know if people are catching that you're talking about Lot.
I'm assuming you guys have all read their Bible. Yeah, Lot, who after Sodom and Gomorrah went into a cave and his daughters slept with him. Some idiot within
oh my gosh.
some of these beliefs. It attracts fanaticals who read a story like that and go, oh, we're gonna have to do that someday too. No, that's disgusting.
Somebody says, yeah, but the daughters got him drunk, so
yeah, there's the
excuse.
It's
in the Christian Bible too.
So well,
be careful, tread lightly right here.
yeah, so what is it? Is that part of the prophecy too? Now we have to drink to do this because it's so yeah.
Cory's been doing some deep dives on a couple of different subjects lately. So somebody says, did James...
I'm disturbed that's people are even talking about that, but I'm not surprised either.
It's because
anything radical that they can read,
yeah.
they're going to twist it and change it to be one of their prophecies in the future, to make it okay that guy or this guy slept with his daughters. It's disgusting, dude. It's not condoned by the Bible. It's in there, so they're condoning it. So
at least you threw in a little dude there, so
yeah.
Yeah, those are the things that really disturb Cory. Any sort of child abuse.
Or, you believe in that? Stop that right now. PSR.
No.
So.
Okay, so did James mention that you guys are trying to do another collaboration? I would love to do one with him. I really enjoy him. He's my mom's favorite YouTuber. Your first one was so good and informative. James asks the right question in an appropriate manner. He really does, and his snark is hilarious to us. We love it. Let's see.
So sometime in April, I'm going to go back up to the compound too, and probably we can't take all this, but we'll do some videos.
Yeah, we'll do some videos on our phone
from the trailer court I grew up in, and allegedly Robin grew up in. So I'll kind of walk you down where
memory lane right there.
Yeah, where we used to hang out and all that stuff, and where my friend used to live, where we used to live, and then we'll walk you up through the woods to see the big house. So where I kind of grew up. So I'll put together a couple different videos of that, see if break the laws of the AUB and film on their property. So it'll be fun.
And don't pre-announce it, then everyone's going to be watching for us. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we will. Okay, I do want to answer this question. It's kind of a sensitive question, so bear with me for just a second. Somebody asked, Handmaid's Tale is amazing, but it brings up big emotions. Yep, me too. It really does. Sorry, the question just jumped. I had it sitting there for a second. Let me get right back up to it. But it basically asked if they do circumcisions for women. They do this in the Handmaid's Tale. They do. I have never heard of that in the AUB or in any other like fanatical group that we know of. I have never heard of that with any of them. So that's why I wanted to kind of hurry and address that, because they do a lot of fanatical things. I just don't hear that for women. Now there are.
I don't know how that like the.
Yeah, you can look into that later, because it's kind of a sensitive subject, not something that we want to like dwell on too long. But
I mean, my parents didn't even do it to the boys. So
right in the AUB, there's like it's like 50-50. Half the people do it, half the people don't do it. To the boys,
they considered it a Jewish tradition.
And
that we had a new and everlasting covenant, so it was up to the parents whether they want to do that for health reasons, but it was never done as a religious reason.
Yeah, it was never taught as a religious, at least not for me it wasn't, and maybe not for your parents either. And I mean, your mom had 6 boys, so.
Yeah. We all still.
And when I started having children, I wanted to know why it was practiced, so I started doing my own research and then made my choices from there, because I didn't want to just, because it wasn't my body and my choice, I wanted to make sure that I was making decisions for my children based on things that I knew to be true, not just something somebody sold me and told me, oh, you have to do it because of this. Oh, I'll go live plural marriage and be a polygamist wife because somebody told me to, but I certainly won't do anything to my children that because of that. So I did my own research on that, and I just think that's something that, I have not heard of that. I don't even know that that's legal in America.
I have no idea.
But I don't know. I mean, if you're going to mutilate a boy, why can't you do it to a girl? I don't know.
I don't think it was anything based in a religious. They had no ceremony around it like they do in the
right.
That I know of.
Right.
But I was pretty isolated up there. They didn't do it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people in here talking about Handmaid's Tale that they would love us to do one. I really want to do one on it. But it could be a dark series, and that's why I feel like it could be a really heavy. We would do it in like a series thing, and I feel like we need to get a little bit more polished on our delivery and our setup and everything that we're doing before I would dive into that, because it is really heavy and dark. But it is one of my. It's hard to say that it's a favorite because it's so dark. But it is one of my favorite ways to show how people are manipulated. So.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Brainwashed.
It shows. It's a sensationalized version of a belief system that if the AUB took away free agency and was forcing this on, there would be such an outrage from the rest of the world that they can. It's the same thing. Back in the old days, they would do blood atonement. Well, 70s they were doing blood atonement, but those people doing blood atonement were, because of society, were being thrown in jail and spending lives in jail, and that they were murdering, blood atoning each other back and forth. And so because they don't want their community going to jail or things like that, it's more like blood shaming now. They'll shame them verbally over the pulpit and denounce them and do stuff like that because they can get away with that and they're not going to spend time in jail. But I feel like that if ever they got too big or got so big, then that would, if they saw somebody was stepping out of line in the 60s, 70s, they would send somebody to take you out. And so, and knock on wood, I haven't seen that in since the 70s that
Right.
might be still going on, but usually they're considered, those are the radicals of the radical,
Yeah.
and they spend time in jail, and so the main body of the community is like, yeah, we don't want to spend time in jail, and the world's too big right now. But yeah, I feel like that if they got big enough for the britches, if not enough people stood up and said that's wrong, or if somebody that fanatical got into leadership, it could actually devolve.
Well, people are saying it's not legal here in the United States. I didn't think it was either.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be.
Right. Yeah, so
I don't know.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, like this whole, I feel like we already talked about some like controversial things here, but we try to put good like humor with it to some degree. Handmaid's Tale, it's hard to put humor to, so it's definitely, it's a heavy one.
It's probably what they would do, they would do if they could get away with it. They can't get away with it, so now it's down to public shaming, announcing your name, excommunicating you. That's really the ultimately what they can get away with, but still trying to convince enough people to donate to the community so it can keep growing, so that they have 10,000 followers and millions of dollars to put into temples and do all that stuff. So
right. So yeah, everybody just has their own. But I definitely love Handmaid's Tale. I definitely, poor Cory, when we watch stuff like this. Well, me too, because you do the same thing. Like you'll go on a deep dive, like Lot. You're on a deep dive on Lot right now.
Because I couldn't believe what.
Because the previous prophet had said, not my dad, but the previous prophet of the AUB had said that allegedly had said
through the grapevine.
Well, we didn't go to the church when it was said, but that the men of the AUB would need to lay with their daughters before. So Cory started doing some research on it. So yeah, that's where some of that came from. But we'll watch a show like Handmaid's Tale, and then we'll hang out, and then we'll be done with it, and we'll sit up till like 6 o'clock in the morning talking about it, like mind blown. And then it just makes me so grateful that I got my girls out as quickly as I did. Got my girls out of this religion as quickly as I did. I mean, my oldest girl, she was only 2 when I left the first time, and then I went back for 2 years. So she was 5 or 6 when I left for good. So she was very young, but I still saw a lot of, we joined the LDS Mormon church at that point, and I did see a lot of manifestations in her with the Mormon church, and me, and the way, and some of the judgments that she had, and meeting with the bishop secretly, just doing a bunch of stuff that she did that I was like, oh my gosh, I broke her because I raised her in a cult till she was 4. And so I was so worried about it, but she's since come out of
seeing
a
the
lot
same
of that.
signs these are same signs of we were raised in a cult, and this is so similar, so we chose to step out of that one too, and break families' hearts. So.
Yeah. So, okay, we're just going to answer like 1 or 2 more questions, because we are going to get going. We've got we're going to do a couple more interviews tonight too with other creators. Somebody says, I missed your lives. I know, thank you. We were saying that too, because we went 21 weeks without missing doing a live. And then last week we didn't do a live at all. And it felt kind of weird. Week. It was just it's been, springtime is really busy for us, and this is more of a hobby for us, and we love it. We love to get stuff out there, but so I apologize if you have written me an email and I haven't responded. Sometimes people are like, you got to get on this platform, and then I'm like, I don't always know how to keep all the platforms straight. Like, oh, I got this message and I wanted to get back to that and reread that, but I don't know what platform it was on. So if I don't respond to you and you email me or you do something like that, please don't think that I'm trying to ignore you. Just reach out again, because I probably just got going and missed it. But yeah, somebody says, I cannot watch Handmaid's Tale. It's way too triggering. It's pretty triggering, I won't lie.
Well, they're showing the extreme. That's why I kind of like watching different versions. Handmaid's Tale seems like the extreme version of it, but there's signs of it within. So if you can go look for those little teeny tiny signs of, am I in a cult? Am I doing this stuff? Because yes, this seems like we've always said that. Well, we're in this community, but we're not as bad as the FLDS, or we're not as we are in a way better community, a more loving community, a more this, a more that. We're not as bad as those guys, or we're not as bad as Jamestown, or things like that. But we still have the same belief systems. We have the same red flags. It's the same, well, wait a minute, waiting for that one thing that will radicalize the group, an attack or the end of the world or something that's going to then radicalize that group into being that doomsday, being that FLDS, being that Jamestown. Right now we're just trudging along and building up our society, but we still have the same belief systems within it. So what are you a part of that has these little red flags? Dang it, I'm always rechecking. Do I still have that cult-like mentality?
Right.
Or is somebody inviting me to come and do this because, you know what I mean? And do I have that ability to, because of the way I was raised from a child, do I have that ability not to be in some sort of cult? To be constantly aware that I don't need to follow this belief system or that, to constantly question and to make sure I'm not following a new cult. So, and to be aware of those cult-like behaviors. So, I don't know. I'm just always double checking, always recalibrating in myself so that I am not. I'm an individual. I'm a loving human being. So and sometimes I'm a snarky human being, but I just I don't want to be a part of a cult anymore, and so
right. So no, we definitely we're constantly rechecking ourselves on these. And I actually did a video. So I said this in our last live. I've organized our videos on YouTube channel. So if you go under the podcast tab, I actually did a video on what describes a cult, and then gave personal experiences with each step. So I think there was like 7 of them, and with each step I gave personal experiences of why the AUB is a cult. It's so funny because that's my dad's number one offense from me right now, is that I'm calling the AUB a cult, and I just think it's funny because it is. But we are close to 10,000, so join if you haven't already. Thank you. Yeah, I know. I've read somewhere that once you hit 10,000 followers, YouTube pushes your channel out even more. So I think that's awesome.
Thanks, Irish Grandma.
Yeah, thank you. I've got
a lot of charm.
You do. I love you. Somebody says, my husband would hide when I would watch The Handmaid's Tale. My Italian temper and tongue couldn't control themselves. Yeah, I totally agree. Somebody says, look, in the 60s and 70s were a time where people were looking for community and lots of cults sprung up. That's I've talked about that in a lot of my videos too, that people wanted a sense of belonging, and a lot of cults did pop up because they wanted that sense of belonging. And they were going to all change the world. And that's really when the AUB took off, was in the early 70s, was when the AUB was formed and really started to becoming a big empire almost, it seems like now. And
the Mormon church is really good at going out and bringing more people. They have missionaries. They have tons of missionaries out there constantly trying to teach people Mormonism and bringing them in and studying about Joseph Smith and all of that stuff. My mom grew up in Mormonism. She's got a long line of family that has been generations in Mormonism, but my dad and most of his other wives weren't a part of Mormonism. Some of them were, I'd say about half, but I felt like that Mormonism is interesting. Mormonism is the gateway religion into polygamy, because these guys would come in learning about Mormonism, and then they would start to study all of the teachings of Joseph Smith all the way back. And even though the Mormon church was saying we don't live that now. We had this revelation. People were like, well, wait a minute. We should be. That was because they still teach it that they were forced, that the church was going to be destroyed by the government if they didn't follow this. So that opens them up to, well, wait a minute, there are other cults. And then it was them, they come into Mormonism, study it, find out that their polygamy is one of the things they taught. And so now you've got 10 different groups to go look into, and my dad just happened to look into the Allred group and follow that prophet, and so yeah, Mormonism. So then when I'm kicked out of the polygamist group go back into Mormonism, I'm like, oh, this was the gateway teachings. Okay,
here's the gateway drug.
So
that's funny.
So then I'm like, I got to unlearn that too. So I feel bad for my family. So I'm here kind of just talking to all of my family of why I've chosen not to be a part of the AUB ever again and the Mormon Church. So some good things taught in there, but the majority of it is not. So.
Right. Well, and somebody talks about the BITE model. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because I love the BITE model. And it says, do they control your behavior, information, thoughts, or emotions? And it's a cult. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So and
if they can't control any of that, then you are excommunicated. You are asked to leave. If we can't control you, then you need to leave.
Yep.
Because we're those who are uncontrollable, or those who have their own question. It can become we're bad apples among. It can spread too quickly. Those questions can spread too quickly, and so they want you out as quickly as possible if you dissent in any way.
Right. So somebody says the BITE model is really helpful also for other toxic systems like work environment or families to identify a toxic system. Absolutely. I love that BITE. Love the BITE model. Let's see, who's in control and where is the money going? Have to ask that about a charity and where I praise too. I agree. I totally agree. I think that too many times we are not personally accountable for what we do. We blame it on the people around us. Well, I was just, how many times did we hear back in, I'm just following orders. Well, those people need to be held accountable for their own actions too. Same thing with religion in my experience. So, and thank you guys. So I love, you guys are so nice to us. We love the Cory snark and the Mel outbursts. They're real and unrehearsed. They are so unrehearsed. Well, no, what's funny too is we don't even talk about a lot of it before we come on here, because we get a general idea and then we're like, okay, let's just go with this and let's just talk. So, somebody says pop psych. I'm fangirling myself, Cory. Cory's excited about that. And so we're going to actually be getting on with them here pretty soon in the next couple of hours.
Oh, is that today?
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's why I'm like, we're going to have to wrap up here pretty quick. You two are so special. It's so amazing to me that you are as kind, intelligent, and well-rounded despite what you have been through. You tackle these tough topics with such class and wit. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I feel like there's times when we like get off the live or whatever, and we're like, oh shoot, did we say too much? Oh shoot, did we not say enough? And we always question how we come across. And so sometimes it can get a little bit like, because we don't, we want to be careful too. We don't want to become a gossip site. And so I feel like we're always trying to recheck that and somebody says, Pop Site going to be live or uploaded later? It'll be uploaded later. So yeah, we're just going to be filming with them tonight, and then I'm sure they'll upload it at a later time. And then we were going to, we'll probably go live again. I'm kind of feeling like, what's today? Is today Tuesday or Wednesday? I think today's Wednesday. Yeah, you can tell how quickly, it's Wednesday, how quickly our lives have been blending lately. I swear we lose track of our days. We'll probably go live again. My mom's going to be here tomorrow. And so maybe depending on what time she gets here, we might go live again tomorrow afternoon.
Today's Wednesday.
Yeah, my mom will be here tomorrow, and then she'll be here till Monday, I think, Monday or Tuesday. So, and then so we'll probably do something with her while she's here, but we'll see. Yeah, so we're really excited about that. But thank you guys so much. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's been 2.5 hours, if you can believe that. I know, we always get so blown away whenever, because we just love it. We love talking to you guys. We love answering the questions, and thank you guys for talking to us about the Pinesdale thing, because that's been on our mind a lot the last couple of weeks. So, because it's directly affecting a lot of Cory's family. So it's been rough to watch some of it happen.
Yeah, I've got family that are in the middle of that too. I was probably going to try to talk to the reporter and kind of give him my point of view on it, but I would rather hear what the point of view of the arguments from the two different lawyers, and he actually sat in the courtroom. That's where I'm excited to see what his opinion is on how both sides are arguing. So that's ultimately, I'm kind of torn right in the middle. I'm a real estate agent. Property rights are important.
Yeah, we see both sides of the argument.
If these guys went up there and on somebody else's property and built something, and now want to try to force them to do it, they can't. So that's part of it. But they also chose to go up there because of their religious beliefs and all of that stuff. And so, to be honest with me,
we're torn on it.
Torn both ways. I personally think they should have probably not paid the $2,500 to the AUB. They would have lost the property in the lawsuit, and that person probably would have sold them their property back
for way cheaper than what they're going to have to pay it now. Yeah,
that's my opinion on it, because whoever won it didn't want the property. They just wanted the value out of it, and they probably could have come up with $2,500, paid it directly to her, and got all of the property turned over into their each individual name. So they'd have been more fairly taken care of if they had chose not to pay the $2,500 to AUB.
So you might,
my opinion,
we'll probably comment on this more. Maybe reach out to the reporter who reached out to us, and we'll probably report on this a little bit more, because it's deeply affecting a good chunk of Cory's family that still live in Pinesdale. So
when they were being asked if they should pay the $2,500, I counseled against it. I'm like, no, you probably have a better negotiating chance, but they still did it because they were following the guidance of their leadership. So they handed it back over into AUB to have them make the decisions, and now they're in a lawsuit. So sorry guys, you saved the property for them. Good for you guys. But now you can't be mad about it that they're not wanting to help you back out. So that should be a red flag for you, that maybe not build on somebody else's property. So get what you can get out of them, and move it to another. Get your own property in your own name. I'll help you.
Somebody says become a court reporter. Thank you guys so much for making the conversations not gossip. We do appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much. So I'll see if I can get my mom to stay out of the hospital this next weekend, Mom, and we'll see if we can get some lives or something done this next weekend. So thank you guys all so much. If you find our content valuable, which so many of you have said thank you, please feel free to share us. We are almost to 10K.
I would be the worst courtroom reporter, especially when we'd be reporting on what I saw, because I'd be the one sitting in there scoffing or rolling my eye. Oh my God. So they'd probably ask me to, all right, Mr. Carter,
get out. Oh, thank you.
You're scoffing too much.
Watch for, I can't announce our lives on TikTok. They don't allow that for some reason, but I can on Instagram. So if you follow us on Instagram, I'll do little updates when we can do lives. We try to do the lives when we have free moments. We're going to get to the point where we schedule them more regularly, where they're actually scheduled ahead of time. But right now we're kind of just doing them when we have the time. So thank you guys so much. You guys have a great night, and watch for the Pop Psych video, because we are coming out on that. And then we will see Growing Up with Polygamy on Friday night. So hopefully we'll take some pictures and do stuff like that with them. And then watch for us live, because I'm pretty sure we'll come live probably, I'm thinking tomorrow night or Friday afternoon. So everyone have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thanks guys. Appreciate you.